Welcome to episode 42 of the We Are Recreated podcast, and second consecutive episode where we're on the road because I'm still touring around Bulgaria and telling people about Jesus here. And as we've been visiting with churches and communities, I've been thinking a lot about Hagar and Genesis chapter 16. Hagar was Abraham and Sarah's servant, Sarah's really, and she found herself in this really sticky and uncomfortable situation because Abraham and Sarah were tired of waiting for God to fulfill the promise that he had given them about having a son. And so Sarah says to Abraham one day, I have this servant girl, Hagar. Why don't you take her as your second wife and you can make a baby that way, and that will fulfill God's promise to us, and we won't have to wait anymore. And for some reason, Abraham thought this was a great idea. And so he says, sure, and takes Hagar as his second wife. And they conceive a kid real quick together. And then Hagar starts to feel important and superior. And so there's contention in the home, and Sarah and Hagar are butting heads everywhere. And Abraham says, hey, Sarah, you're my wife, my first wife, and she's your servant. You can do what you want to do with her. And so Sarah actually treats Hagar very harshly, and eventually Hagar gets to the point where she's had enough and she runs away and she's out in the desert. And I think that this is a relatable story for so many people because here's Hagar who is taken advantage of, and she's made to do things that she might not have wanted to do otherwise. And then she's mistreated and abused, and I'm sure felt very sore and very lonely in that place. And so she runs away and she's in the desert hiding, trying to get away from her master and trying to get away from this terrible situation. And God meets her in that place. And I think this is really beautiful because so often when people hurt us, particularly if it's somebody important, somebody who has power or authority in our lives, or somebody who's supposed to love us and then they hurt us, like a mom or a dad or a family member, the way they hurt us actually taints the way that we think about God and relate to God and can receive from God. And so it can become a hindrance to us. But here, Hagar has this crummy experience at home, and God meets her and reveals himself to her in a really special way. He says, Hagar, what are you doing? And she explains her situation, and he says, I have a promise for you. And he blesses her with a promise about the son that she's carrying and about the descendants that will come through him, and that his family name, her family name, will be forever, that it will be great, just like Abraham and Sarah's other son would eventually be. And Hagar is just so blown away at this encounter with God and at his kindness and at the way he knows her and cares about her and relates to her, that she says, you are the God who sees me, because now I've seen the one who takes care of me. And it's such a beautiful thing that we can hold on to. There's lots of things in the world that hurt us and try to damage our hearts and break us. And there's the potential that those things could keep us from knowing God. But when we open ourselves up to him, when we allow him to speak to us and we receive truth from him, we discover that he actually cares way more than we ever realized, that he's already close, that he's intimately acquainted, that he wants to love us in those things and through those things, and to bring healing and hope and freedom and restoration from those things. And so if you've had any kind of experience that's left you wounded, I want to encourage you to turn to Jesus and find that there's life in him, and that there's a promise for you as well, that Jesus will never, ever let you go, that he'll never, ever leave you or forsake you or stop loving you, and that in all things he's good and he's kind. He's the God who sees you. He's God who cares about you. So hold on tight to him, and until we see you next time, remember, we are recreated.